Uh,
Got any guests yet?
not that I see.
All right, we're streaming. I just saw the message.
You just saw it?
Yeah.
Where you see it at?
Oh Lord.
It came up, popped up, and went away, bro. Doom said that we're live streaming.
I can't never get this thing to go right. I can never get this thing to go right.
I check on my phone.
I
check on my phone. Hold on.
All right, we live streaming, y'all. I was trying to get it to live stream to the one that we prepared, and I can never ever get that. I don't know how to get that going. I guess what I need to do is I need to start writing all those links down. Because when you live streaming to a prepared stream, it's like 3 different links that you have to put into the Zoom in order to send it there, and I haven't quite got that together yet. So we'll figure it out. Anyway, we might well get started on the conversation. We got 2 people waiting in the other stream. We got 2 people waiting in the other stream, and I hate I couldn't connect to that connection because well, maybe they'll figure out where we at.
You can't post a message on there?
Huh?
You can't throw a message up on the channel or something?
On the other live stream?
With the correct link?
Okay, let me see. Well, I got the link for people that if they want to get involved if people want to get involved in the discussion, the link is in the description of that other live stream. So it's in the description box. But you did just say something. Give me 1 minute, and I'm gonna leave a message in that stream to let people know that they can let people know where we at, and then we can get started. I think they figured it out. I think they jumped on over here to where we at now. Yeah, I got to figure out how to do this. I had everything set up on it and thought we was ready. Honestly, thought we was ready to roll. And then when I did the click, when I clicked us in, it required me to give all the links. It's 3 different links to that other screen that I'd already prepared, and I can't figure out how to pull it up. We'll get it together one day, though. We'll get it together one day. My fault. Anyway, this is the Panther 48. We still trying to get this thing figured out. I got Brother War calling out of California. He's the chairman of the San Diego chapter of the Black Panther Party, and he's driving from work, and he's always doing something he ain't got no business doing when we doing live streams. So he puts that background on so he can look like he's really professional. Really, he's in a car. Peace and power, Brother War.
All power to people, Black power folks.
Then we got Brother E. He is the minister of condescending that we got calling out of Florida. Peace and power, Brother E.
Yeah, I'll take that.
No, he's the minister. He's the official minister of information for the Panther 48. As I always introduce the brother, he's the second in line as the minister of information for the original new Black Panther Party Dallas chapter, founded under David Foreman and Aaron Michaels. So we got Brother E here, and we got myself, Brother Syke. Us 3 make the Panther 48, and I think we have a pretty decent discussion today. Brother E, if anybody is watching and you want to participate in the live discussion, you can leave chat messages on YouTube. I'm looking at the live chat as we sit here and have this discussion. So you can leave chat messages on YouTube and we will respond to that. Or if you decide that you want to participate in the conversation, hold on. Let me silence this. So let me silence this right quick so we won't get all that feedback. Anyway, so So I'll respond to the live chat if you want to leave in the chat room, or you can participate live with us. If you look at the description in the box that we left, we'll have the link, the Zoom link, so you can participate in the conversation. What's up, E? You know how I want to start this, E, actually, before we get into that, because ain't nobody came on that want to get into that discussion, because E said that he knew some female friends that necessarily I don't know if I want to say friends, but he knew some people that didn't necessarily agree with some of the things that I may have said last week in the discussion of relationships, the role I think women are playing in the dysfunction of those relationships. They wanted to have, their say so on this. But before we get into that, and because we don't have anybody to come in and give that female perspective, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the female perspective of what we talked about last week. There is something that's been happening lately in the news, the whole Roe v. Wade thing. And I know E, being that he's the official minister of information, he usually stays up on these things. So hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot, and hopefully you got some information to give us. But I want to ask this. For those of us, or for those in the listening audience that might not know what Roe v. Wade is, I would like you to kind of give us a quick, general breakdown of it and tell us what's going on in the news right now about the Roe v. Wade and how that affects us as a people, in your opinion.
Well, I mean, Roe v. Wade, hopefully people have some idea, but essentially Roe v. Wade, the Democratic Party likes to throw Roe v. Wade up as some type of shield, this I don't know, last bastion of woman's ability to control her body and whatnot, as if it were law. Roe v. Wade was a Supreme Court opinion or decision that said that there's no constitutional basis for making abortion illegal. It didn't set the law. It didn't say you couldn't have the law. It said let me how I'm gonna say it. It took the ability of the states and said you can't do this. Biden and Obama and others have had the opportunity to codify a woman's right to abortion into law, which they've never done. And so this Roe v. Wade thing, it was just, like I said, it's an opinion by the Supreme Court. Doesn't mean a whole lot, in my opinion, but it's being used, like so many other things, as a carrot to the masses of the people to manipulate the vote. As long as it's not codified into law, it's something that they can rally people around. We have to fight to keep this ruling. We have to fight to keep this in place so that a woman can have an abortion, blah, blah, blah. It's another approach to reality that addresses the symptom, the aftermath of an issue, rather than dealing with the issue up front. The whole idea and concept of a woman's right to, or not right, or whatever, abortion period, is an afterthought, simply because the problem's not whether or not she wants to have an abortion. The question is, why is there such a need in this country to even have the dialogue of whether or not life begins at conception or birth, or it's my right, my body, and all of those types of things. So again, insofar as symptoms, it doesn't, to me, you can make any issue our issue if that's your intent, but the reality of it is, it's not something in my mind that we in our community need to be overly concerned about. We have broader issues. Issues that tend to bite more at the core of the problem rather than another symptom. But yeah, I mean, it's something that the Republicans have been promising they would do for years. They finally got an opportunity, apparently, and did it. So now there's no You know, they struck down Roe v. Wade. So now the ability to determine whether or not it's legal for a woman to have an abortion has been turned back over to the states. That's all it was. And in my view, if so-called progressives, liberals, and all of these folks, you know, women liberals and all of those want to be upset, they need to be pissed off again at my favorite president, your nigga in mine, Minister Barack Obama, because he campaigned and gave a speech just prior to being elected. He campaigned saying that he was going to codify, make it a federal law that women have the right to an abortion. A few years later, I think in 2009 or 2010, he gave another speech, and when they asked him, he was talking to reporters it was a news conference, when they asked him about codifying a woman's right to have an abortion, he said in his words that that is not one of his higher priorities. So he didn't do it. Biden and them could have done it. They've had the votes to take care of it. They haven't done it. So for me, that's essentially what it boils down to. Hello?
Yeah,
that means back to you. What else?
Well, that's essentially, I wanted you to just kind of build on that a little bit and give me your ideas and concept on that. Last week we built on we talked about we did a show, we called it the alpha male perspective of polygamy. And some of the things that we got into about detail about was, one, we defined alpha male, which you said you still do not agree with or can't grasp the whole ideal of the alpha male because you don't like the bravado of the alpha male. You don't like that chest thumping. You don't like the chest thumping of the alpha male. And I want you to, I kind of want us to go into that. I want to build on that concept.
I just want no archetypes, none of that. Just a definition. An alpha male is typically characterized by go.
Well, I think we did that already. You know, and I maybe I lack the ability to give a definition or description of the alpha male without that archetype, without that history and that breakdown, because of the way I like to do definitions. When I do definitions, I like to actually define. I like to actually deal with the etymology, the history of a word, because a lot of times what it is, I think a lot of times we as a people, we do not have a true working definition of words. We don't understand what words mean. We don't really understand what the word politics mean. We don't really understand what define mean. We don't understand these words. Responsibility. We don't understand what these words really mean, you know, and we'll be operating from a perceived understanding of the definition. Most of the time when we're dealing with reality, we're not really dealing with reality. We're dealing with our perception of reality. We're not really dealing with the way things are. We're dealing with what I like to call the autobiographical view of how things are, meaning that we're viewing the world based on our own personal experiences. And since we're the only person in existence that have went through our particular, you know, individually, our particular complete set of experiences, then viewing reality through an autobiographical lens is miseducated and is misconstrued. So I like to deal with things kind of concretely the way that they are. So I guess that's why I get long-winded when I define something. I can't just say, I think you're looking for an absolute or a total view of what an alpha male is. And the problem with that is there is no such thing as an absolute. Let's say you, me, and War, all three considered alpha males based on the archetype, but I may express my alpha maleness in a way that War doesn't. One of the things that the YouTubers have done with the concept of the alpha male is you'll hear about the alpha male having a lot of women, you know, and that's not necessarily true. Why he attracts women, it's not necessarily true. Let's say War is the type of alpha male that's pumping and dumping. He's an alpha male, so he attracts, not saying that this is what War does, because War is a happily married man with 1 million kids. So I'm just using him as an example. Let's say War is the type of alpha male that's pumping and dumping. he's attracting women because he has all the quote unquote trappings of the alpha male. He has the alpha look, and he's usually when he walk in a crowd of males, he's the most dominant. So women like this guy. So he's able to lay that pipe. You know, he's able to get a lot of women. Let's say that I'm an alpha male as well for the same exact reasons. However, let's say I decide to be in monk mode. I'm not messing with women. I'm not dating. I'm not having sex. I'm not doing. So that can't be a characteristic that's necessarily attached to the alpha male, because that thing is not necessarily what makes a person alpha. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why I can't give you those definitions that you want, because you want an absolute.
Well, because, okay, I can understand sigma in terms of rebuffing the expectations, rebuffing the norms, whatever those norms are. The hell with your rules. This is how I'm going to do it, whatever comes along with it. So what I'm understanding is that an alpha male essentially is a personality that dominates an interaction. It's a dominant personality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I have to say I'm an alpha male in that sense. You cannot tell me that I've not gone in especially in party situations, gone in and dominated, you know, particular settings. Again, being contextual, being, you know, having a reference point. If we go on a college campus, I'm going to dominate. If we walk through the streets of Bonton, you're going to dominate between the two of us. Because contextually, I mean, if we go in, that's my background. That's my world. That's where I came up. So I have that confidence to go in, put my chest out, and dare anybody to step. Same type of thing that you would experience, I'm assuming, because I ain't never been a G, but the same type of thing that you would experience going into the street, going into the hood. So I don't, it is very much that alpha male bullshit that's on YouTube that I don't like. Kevin Samuels, I don't have a problem with a lot of what he says. I really don't. Sometimes he says it in a piss poor way, a way I wouldn't do it. But then I'm the cat with the conversation. So, and this is real weird me saying this, but I'm gonna be much, I guess, more pleasant, much nicer, which is weird because, you know, me, don't give shit. But then some of the stuff that I've seen his interactions be. So the content I really don't have a problem with. It's just some of what they put out there. But that's part of what it kind of plays into. So the idea that we mentioned last week, one of the ideas is that I said it, that we're not going to see any type of liberation. We're not going to see any type of real improvement in our communities. We're not going to see any headway made against our oppressive situation and those who oppress until that male-female dynamic is addressed. And since we don't have the ability to get sisters' input, because that's, you know, we had what we had to say, and none of us has been in a polygamous relationship. So coming firsthand, no, we don't have it, but that doesn't prevent someone from having a conversation about it. So now that we've given our input, what we think it is from a male perspective, what we want to do is have sisters call in, because usually this is a hot issue for sisters to talk about. You know, I don't share my man, all that, you know, back and forth. And we were looking forward to having that dialogue and having, you know, some intelligent sisters school us, you know, put me in my place if we're wrong, you know, lay it out. But barring that, there's that idea of repairing that masculine feminine dynamic. And when I thought about it, the way I started thinking about it was in terms of progressivism. And so the counter-revolutionary progressivism. And I'm not talking about necessarily, you know, Harold Taft or Wilson or whoever it was, the whatever, the great big deal or whatever they had years ago. Progressive in that sense, progressive today, what it's come to mean, what it's come to look like with what we're dealing with. Around the 1900s, progressivism was essentially, and it still is at its core, is just a desire to reform a system. That's all progressivism is that basically it's a linear concept that society goes from this lower state to a higher state, that it's constantly getting better, and the way we constantly make it better is to change the rules, change the laws, develop, mold, and morph ourselves around whatever it is to be progressive. Back in the day, Du Bois was the progressive guy, you know, NAACP, the Niagara Movement, Urban League, organizations like that were progressive organizations because, like Du Bois, they wanted to fight for equality within a society, as opposed to somebody like Booker T, who essentially said, you know, drop your bucket, circle your wagons, war, and build with what you got in order to develop some type of power base for yourself, i.e. Things like Tuskegee and other Black colleges, that type of idea. But this is more morphed into this modern day nonsense of progressivism and being progressive. In order to be progressive in a society, you are supposed to embrace anything and everything on one hand, but at the same time, you reject and argue and fight against those who you deem to be deplorables or you know, racists and fascists and all of this. So it's a contradiction of itself. You embrace everything, but you reject that you don't like. It can't make peace with itself. But essentially, it's still a reformist type of thought process, especially for our people, because in order to be progressive within a society, you have to embrace the values and ideals and morals, the values within that system and that society, from economics to relationships to society to sexuality. And that's where it gets to be really sticky for us. It's that downward slope that we talked about in our call earlier. You know, you start accepting one aspect of it, and it necessitates that you embrace all of these broader, ever broadening, bigger and bigger ideas and concepts. You know, it's like we stopped dealing with reality a long time ago and have bought in, for survival's sake, I would suppose, to defining things based around how we feel, you know, as opposed to saying that, you know, we're out of shape and unhealthy. The society has changed the concept of what healthy is so that it includes a whole bunch more people that are actually unhealthy, according to what healthy was 100 years ago. You know, matter of fact, Sek, you pointed out years ago, 20, 30 years ago, before you went on vacation and shit, you said that you noted that this culture, this global culture, whatever, is the first one in recorded history to have an industry based around physical fitness. You know, there was no 24-hour fitness in ancient Egypt. You know, there wasn't any, you know, fitness clubs, and even, you know, back in Greece and all of these things, or even just back in chattel slavery days, you know, because your movement and whatnot, the things that you had to do. In fact, you know, the idea of kept you in shape, but the idea of white folks, you know, white used to be applied to European females was a term that basically meant a kept lady. She didn't have to work for anything. You know, it came to mean much more, and I guess it's another conversation, but it meant somebody, because their skin was pale and white, you could tell they didn't have to work for anything, because those that had to work for things were browner, even in Europe, because they were out in the sun all day. So it started to develop in this class thing. But So we get into I forget where I was going with that. Y'all gotta stop.
Let me jump in then, because you doing the warlock again. You always talk about war getting long-winded and getting boring. So I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna go back just a little bit. Because what you're saying is crazy. It's crazy. And I might get a little controversial right now. Because what you're saying is basically this society has went from just straight up saying you're fat and saying a cool way, you're thick, you're big, man, you're fat, you're overweight, you need to just straight up you need to lose some weight. You need to do something about yourself. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to take it back. I'm going to take it back a little bit. You brought up Kevin Samuels. Let me say this. Since I'm the one that you always bring him up in our discussions, I'm going to speak on it a little bit. I do not agree. I have never, ever in my life met, read, or studied anybody that I agree with 100%. And I guess that's because I'm such an independent thinker, and I do appreciate the revolutionary pleasure of thinking for myself. So I don't have anybody I agree with 100%, not even Kevin Samuels. Now, there are things that I agree with about that brother. And I like the conversation that he brought to the forefront. And it was because it was a thought that I was already having once I came home from my vacation and I started my interaction with women. I was looking at how women are acting today, modern day women. It just shocked me. You know, it was shocking. It was almost like women was at war. Men and women was at war against each other. Like they hated each other. You know, and that's crazy to me. That was insane. And it's almost like you can't communicate. Like a woman is never wrong. She never admits to being wrong. She can't not be wrong. I saw a post on Facebook. A sister posted, one of my Facebook friends, I don't know in real life, but Facebook friend, you know how this new age social media stuff works. You can have friends you've never seen in your life now. But anyway, she posted, I'd rather lose you than the argument. And that's the way women are thinking. I'd rather sacrifice the relationship than lose the damn argument. You know, but to go back to Kevin Samuels, I like the conversation the brother brought to the table. And whether or not he did it for shock value, for views, or whatever he did it for, I even like the tone that he used. Because sometimes that tone is necessary to get us to pay attention. All that niceness and beating around the bush and trying to make it sound sweet, that stuff doesn't work. It doesn't work. You know, people start really paying attention. I'm going to show you something too. I'm going to show you something. There was an outcry on this dude because he started directing that what some would consider vitriol toward women. He started directing that direct conversation toward women. The cold thing is that conversation that he used toward women has only been going on for about a year. And it was just, the women was in. Vivica Fox even came out and was almost, I ain't gonna say she said this, but to a certain degree, she basically said he got what he deserved. He died, he got what he deserved. Essentially, that's what she said. It was like, but the cold thing is the dude had been out for 3 years prior to talking to women about these things, 3 years prior, and that same tone he had been using toward men. He had been blanking out on men for 3 years, telling men they need to get at their best. If you're broke and ain't working 60 hours a week, then you need to get another job before you start coming to me talking about being broke. You know, you need to be working at least 60 hours a week. He got on one live, and a dude asked his advice. He blanked out on the dude. The dude said, you know, I don't really just talk to women. You know, I'll be waiting on he said, choosing signals. He said, dude, how old are you? How much do you weigh? He said, how much do you make a year? He basically told the dude, so you a big old fat broke dude, and you think you're supposed to get choosing signals for a woman. Do you at least got a big penis? That's what he asked the dude. Dude said, man, I don't know. He said, nigga, you know if you got a big penis or not. I got a big penis. You don't know if you got a big penis? So what you telling me? She supposed to give you a choosing signal? You broke, you fat. She don't even get a big penis. You know, the dude been blanking out on men for 3 years, and there was no outcry against his tone when he was blanking out on men. But when dude turned that tone toward women, and this goes back to what I said, women do not like to be corrected. Women do not like to admit being wrong. When he directed that tone toward women, it was an outcry. It was the worst thing in the world. Even you said you didn't like his tone because of the way he talked about, well, he hate black women. He this, that, there, and the other. He's this. Oh, you didn't say you didn't like it. You said that you wouldn't have used that tone. But I think that was necessary. That's what made people start listening to the message.
I said some. A lot of times, yeah, cut at it, go at it, blah, 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 blah. There are times I've seen it's like, damn, that might have been a bit much. But overall, the tone I don't have a problem with. It's one or two times, it's a few times, and I haven't watched a lot of the videos, but what I've seen there, one or two times, it's like, damn, that was kind of fucked up. Wouldn't have been me. Not necessarily he's wrong, just wouldn't have been how I approached it. But overall, I don't have a problem with it.
You know what you told me years ago?
What's that?
You told me this years ago, and we wasn't talking about male and female relationship. And there was no Kevin Samuels as far as to our knowledge. But you told me this. You say, if you go on the playground and there's a big fat kid on one side of the seesaw, and therefore he has created an imbalance on the seesaw, and he has basically hogged the seesaw where nobody else can play. To get the seesaw back to balance, you have to use an extreme tactic.
Yeah.
The other kids will either have to jump the fat kid, or they will all have to pile on the other side of the seesaw. But we have to use an extreme tactic in order to create balance back on the playground. Basically, an imbalance, in my opinion, has intentionally been created between men and women and destroyed the balance that once existed in our relationships. And I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna be 100% real. We can't fake it. Europeans had created an imbalance on one side. They created an imbalance because they're extreme thinkers. They think in the extreme, where males was kind of dominating women. And so I think that the movements, the feminist movements and things like that, thought that they had to create the opposite extreme. But the opposite extreme still isn't the answer. The balance between men and women is the answer. We're not always right. We're not always doing the right thing. They're not always right either, though. You know what I'm saying? And we have to create that harmony again that must exist between men and women. And that shock value of his conversation is what made people start paying attention to the dialogue. Women have to get themselves, let me say this, and I'm gonna pass the mic. Women really have to get themselves together. Look at this, man. Statistically, black people was married at a higher rate right after slavery than we are right now. Black women right now in today's society, women, not just black women, women are the least married that they've ever been in this society. And there are higher rates of depression amongst women right now in this society. Once women are traditional, what's the word I want to use? I don't want to say sex, not sex. What's the word? I can't think of the phrase. It'll come to me in a minute. Gender roles. That's what it is. Once traditional gender roles were basically took off the table, and they said ain't no traditional gender role. They disregarded the work that women actually did in the community, in the home, amongst the family. That was real work. That developing of the family, that developing of the children, those things, once those things was they basically degraded because they might have not necessarily made money from the overall society. Once those things were completely destroyed, and women went into the workforce because that's what women needed, and women went into the higher women have higher educational achievement and attainment right now in today's society, but women are the most depressed than they've ever been in this society right now. Women, there are so many women basically essentially dying without being married, and those who are starting families have started these strange, I don't even know what to call them. I sent y'all the link, and y'all pretty much laughed at me like, what the hell he sending this to us for? That whole thing.
I keep getting lumped in with that man. He laughed. I ain't say nothing. That was Will said all of that.
Well, I'm just saying that link I sent with the chick who the baby daddy, the BD, brought his child some damn McDonald's, and didn't bring all the other kids some McDonald's. I mean, this thing is viral all over the internet right now. I just saw one today where a dude went and picked up all the other baby daddies and brought all the other baby daddies over. So the other baby daddies, they brought Chick-fil-A and Taco Bell, and they brought their kids some meals. But essentially, the whole thing was the chick say, "You don't bring your son food, but I bring it all my other kids who are not your kids' food." This is what has happened now in this society, and whether we like it or not, and it's not me degrading women, it's not me disrespecting women, but we have to admit that this stuff is dysfunctional. This stuff is not really working out, you know. And I think that dude was just pointing the light on this, kind of like how Malcolm used to do. Malcolm came out and he blanked out. When he blanked out so hard, he called white folks the devil. You know, black people didn't believe that could be possible. But he blanked out because we was in such an extreme condition. He had to use extreme conversation to get people's attention.
So y'all cut me some slack when I blank out. I'm doing my Malcolm X impression. But I would concur. You know, that's still something that in my mind it makes a great deal of sense. Is the idea of, if you're in an extreme situation, in order to balance out, you have to go to the extreme. And being as that we live in a society and a culture that props up, promotes, idolizes, places the full lion's share of value on the masculine energy or the masculine role, the other extreme would be to delve into to build up and to shine light on the feminine. So that would be the counter to the extreme masculine society, would be a push toward the extreme feminine. Now, this don't mean the interaction that we see, sisters, like the link that you sent, that's not femininity. That's some bullshit. That's the attempted acquiescence. It's part of the problem that I'm going to talk about, acquiescence of female into a masculine role and attempting to deal with whatever she got to deal with. That's the craziness and the nonsense of somebody suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome. You know, the opposite of the masculine society, one that's in destroying life, would be in the nurturing and creation of life. It would be the opposite in that sense, the actual feminine aspect. But we don't do that. What happens is because we're so hell-bent on gaining access and equality and whatnot in the system of society, we've adopted their value system. That value system has created a female class, white women, who are lashing out at their oppressors, white males, recruiting us to help them, as they've done a number of times throughout the history in this country. But they're not promoting the feminine aspect. What they're doing is promoting the masculine aspect with the feminine face. They don't promote women as the builders of the home, of the masters of the home, not masters in, I don't want to get into that argument, but the feminine aspect being the prime expression of home, the prime nurturer of home, the home economy. Home economics used to be a real thing, you know, and it is a real science. It is a real something that you have to really wrap your mind around to be able to master, especially if you're talking in terms of more than just yourself, but now feeding and taking care of a family. But instead of promoting those aspects of femininity in order to counter the masculinity in the society, they promote women stepping into male roles and promoting them in those male roles. So to take the face of femininity, of the feminine aspect, and promote it in a masculine way. You know, you see CEOs of companies, you see State Department heads that are women. That's not a promotion of the feminine aspect. That's a promotion of a woman in a masculine role. It just is. You can tell that just by looking at the females who excel in those roles. Nancy Pelosi, Madeleine Albright, Janet Yellen, all of these women look like crypt keepers. I mean, they look like monsters to me. These hardened, no softness in their face, just skeletal and just hard. So they're putting a female face on this promotion of the same old thing. So that, for me, is not what has to happen. Another thing that we've been tricked into is, along with accepting their cultural values and whatnot, is this whole idea of LGBT, which that whole promoting females in the masculine role plays right into. That's why for me, a lot of times that whole women's lib movement is just a recruiting ground for lesbianism. It's just something that they've done throughout their history. They've had entire cultures and societies, sex cultures and whatnot, that were built around the idea of males having sex with males and other perverted sexual expressions, up to and including bestiality and was it NAMBLA, the National Association of Man-Boy Love, or some shit like that, basically promoting men, so-called men, being able to have sexual relationships with little boys. They do it in the Vatican and in the Boy Scouts, and everybody keeps acting surprised, like, whoa, I can't believe that. Yeah, they've been doing this for thousands of years. This is what the fuck they do. And it's something that's foreign to us, but we bought into wanting to be a part of their society and their culture because we've fallen for the show us monkey something shiny and they'll dance for you. So we see all the glitz and glamour. In order to get that, if I want to be a star in Hollywood, and y'all know War, you and Sight can probably talk more about the music part of it, but there's this initiation where you got to get, there's little videos and whatnot. I don't know how true they are, where they talk about different, your favorite rap stars and what they had to do sexually to get accepted into the music industry. So all of that shit is a part of their culture and what it is they do. And we've bought into it to the point that even revolutionary organizations have to address this whole, do we support or do we allow gayness in our organization? Do we allow, because I mean, it used to be one thing to be a punk. I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. I don't give shit. To be a punk. And we call punk a punk. And you go do that over there, because we don't really care for that. And when you're done, you can come back and be a part of the society, because we're forgiving people. At the same time, we knew that that was not something that was beneficial to us producing the next generation and a healthy home and a healthy community and culture. We knew that from tens of thousands of years of practice. We've had men in one role, women in another role, and it worked really well. I mean, shit, we built pyramids and, established science and color and all these other things that we could rattle off. So we were doing something fucking right, having men do this and women do that. But now we've bought into this idea that men can do what men do, what women do, and women can do what women do. And it's just utter nonsense to the degree that we argue over what is a male and a female. That's a white people conversation. We've never had a problem with that. We know what a man is, know what a woman is, and we've been good with that. But we've bought into their value system. So now organizations that work toward the ultimate good of our people, getting us out of our situation, have to deal with folks, Black folk, coming in with this. And it's crazy to me, because whenever they come into the organizations, I can't see them, say if there's somebody from New Black Panther Party back in the day, and I'm not singling anybody out, I don't know if there was, I'm just going to use that. There's this brother who's down for the cause, blah, 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 and he's gay. I can't see him going to his gay organization meetings and whatnot and trying to promote the New Black Panther Party agenda. We need to fight for African people who are getting blah, 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 and police this and do it. I can't see him rallying around that, but when they come to our organizations, they're insistent that we support the Alphabet Soup Society, where they're adamant that we support Roe v. Wade. They're adamant that we support the things that stem from their sexuality. And let's call it what it is. I love Sight. I love War. Are we gay? No, because it doesn't become a gay relationship until somebody fucks somebody in the ass. That's what it is. Call it what you want. I don't care for the new verbiage and all. I don't care. Call it what it is. You want to be real. I'm gonna keep it 100. Fuck that. It's about sex. It's about dick in the booty. Call it what it is. And if that becomes such a dominant part of your life, that it affects your politics, that it affects your work in the community, that it affects your relationship with your average everyday person. I don't walk into a room and assess whether or not that guy over there is heterosexual. Number one, it doesn't really cross my mind. It doesn't cross my mind until you got some flaming fool walking through there, twisting and turning, trying to act like a female, announcing to the world that he's gay, announcing to the world that he likes penis in the booty. That's where it becomes a problem. Why do you need to announce that? If I walked around and walked up and down the Walmart or some shit, my hand on my dick, talking crazy to women, hey, I'm gonna fuck you, come here, blah, 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 talking to women, people, I would have a problem. Somebody called the police, I'm being sexually harassed, blah, blah, blah. But somebody, a flaming dude can walk through there twisting with a dress on and all of this shit, and it's just normal. And we've accepted that. Shit's not normal for us. I don't care what you say. I don't care if we're not progressive. I'm never going to be a progressive because progressive is nonsense. All of your progressive ideas and whatnot are going to end up one way and one way only, because you have to embrace everything. Essentially, your shit's going to come apart and you're going to end up having to go back to those old values that you think are antiquated and outdated and no good. You're going to have to go back to those roles in order to rebuild society from whatever level you're at, because you're not going to have a choice. It's going to be, it's going to be the bare, primal, just everything stripped off, and you're looking at it for what it is. It's going, because it's cyclical. Progressive thinking is linear. It goes from bad to good. Cyclical understands we go from bad to good to bad to good to bad to good. That eventually all of this good movement forward is going to wind you right back up at what you call bad. That's the only way that it's going to, whether it happens now or it happens tomorrow, eventually it's going to burn itself out. It can't sustain itself. What we were doing sustained itself for a long time until these pink-toed people came in and messed shit up. But the old gender roles, the old values that everybody thinks that they're lashing out at, that shit sustained us for tens of thousands of years and sustained us through chattel slavery as well. To reference back to what you were talking about, Syke, those gender roles, to whatever degree, even when Master was beating our ass and raping our women and shooting us and all of those types of things, we still maintained our particular positions within the community as best we could. And now they're not there, but you got your red bottom shoes. So I hope it was worth it.
Now let me say this: I got to be the I have to be the antithesis. What about the homosexual people that would say, well, what about Greece? Everybody was gay. Everybody was participating in homosexuality, and Greece was considered a high level of civilization. Or King James, who basically brought us the New Age Bible and this and that. What would you say to those homosexual people that would say that they had so much? Sparta was gay. All these people was gay. The gymnasium, the island of Lesbos, and the high, quote unquote, high level of civilization that came out of Greece. What would be your comeback to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you put a high value on the society that they had and what they were and what they spawned, and yeah, it was the best that is the apex of European society. Any deep thinking and whatnot that they had, that they espoused, they got from us, but it still boiled down to a perversion. And you look at the society that they spawned down the road. If the roots of this society are in Greek culture, then I say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That there was a level of corruption that was acceptable to them then, and that is still acceptable to people today. So the way that they did politics, the way that they waged war on every damn body. I mean, yeah, let's talk about the what do you call those? The Crusades. Yeah, that was great. There's your society, there's your high society. Let's talk about the enslavement of people, and we can debate the differences and was there slavery in Africa and all of that another time, but there's never been an economic system based on the enslavement of people in Africa ever. So if those are things that you would say are earmarks of a high society and a great society, and yeah, they're wonderful, but they did nothing to develop the internal of a human being, to develop to take part in the evolutionary progress. They were regressive because they regressed humanity down to its most primal instincts and its most primal levels. Cats like Socrates were murdered because they were talking about stuff that he learned in Africa. He came over into Greece and all of that and said, hey, we should do this. And they like, no, kill them. I mean, they killed the philosophers constantly. What was it? KRS-One, you know, put it in a rap song. It's so popular. You know, Aristotle, all them cats murdered because the society itself wasn't feeling that. These were barbarians. You know, Romans like to call the other cats, the Goths and all of them, barbarians. But the fact of the matter is, Romans were barbarians. They were some horrible people. You know, they're the one that came up with crucifixion and hanging people up on shit. They did that. These are masters of destruction. So yeah, they go hand in hand. And if you call one great, you must be saying the other was great as well. Because everyone you throw out like that, I can show you one that's far superior in a number of different ways. and yeah, King James was a punk too.
Let me add to this real quick, because I want to make sure one thing does get out, and this is to the younger generation as well, especially the younger generation that wants to be a part of the pro-Black struggle and deal with the continuity of Black people. And this even ties into what he started talking about with the Roe versus Wade. What a lot of our people fail to realize is they're not able to recognize patterns. And all we're basically talking about at this point is patterns of destruction. Roe versus Wade. Or should we just start with the whole idea of the abortion clinics? The abortion clinics were basically put up in the Black communities to deal with neutralization of the Black genetics from the standpoint of being able to slow down our reproductive cycle, slow down our reproductive ability so that we don't dominate this society. Going back to what was said about the idea of the Greek culture and the Roman culture, if I'm not mistaken, hell, they didn't even feel like women had souls. And so the only reason that the gay Greeks had sex with the women was for procreation, but they preferred not to, which is a perversion. And what I think a lot of the young people are doing, they're not being students of history. And they also claim identities of the ones that enslaved them. One of the biggest things that we find psychologically with African people, should we say with the defeatist people, is that they take on the lifestyle of the person that abused them. We see that on an individual level, to where a person could be in a relationship to where a woman is getting beat by her man, and instead of getting out of that relationship, she justifies the beatings that he's given her. And that sickness that allows a person to justify being dominated and destroyed and pushed down by another people is a victimization mentality. That victimization mentality oftentimes falls for, from a psychological perspective, falls for feeling like the one that has oppressed them must be powerful. This is why they were able to use religion and like we was talking about with the missionaries, and going into when he was talking about the Crusades, using the God, the gun, or the weapon to dominate a society. And what a lot of the young generation is failing to realize is that it's the same cycle, just done a little bit of a different way. When you cause people to want to classify their work based upon individuality and put that above the society, above the what a family unit is supposed to be, then what's happening at that point is they are falling for the same neutralization that the ruling class wants them to do in the first place. It benefits the ruling class if we don't reproduce as Black people. It benefits the ruling class if we all screwed up in the head and all we want to do is put ourselves in a situation where we allow sexuality to dominate our mindset, sexuality to dominate what we should provide and be doing for our people, to the point to where that becomes the first and foremost thing on our mind. So when you deal with this idea of a situation where I want to identify with something other than what I naturally am, and I want to allow that to be how I form a family structure, then what you're doing at that point is you're rejecting the idea of procreation. You're rejecting the idea of how you even got to this planet. I'd be damned if any two men can come on this show and tell me they procreated and created a child. I'll be damned if any two women can come on here and say that they procreated and had a child. So from that standpoint, when we go in that direction as an individual, what we're doing is we're stopping, we're putting an end to our bloodline at that point because we're not going to procreate. And so our individual sexuality has now taken the forefront of what matters the most for our people. And that, again, is why we find ourselves as a people in a position to where abnormalities have become the norm. Abnormalities are something that should be inclusive. And when individuals are living a specific lifestyle to where they know that is not necessarily correct in terms of natural law, then just like any human being, they want to be able to be accepted. All human beings want to be able to be accepted by a society. And so as an individual attempting to be accepted by a society, obviously, if I have an abnormality like that, in terms of sexual perversion, I still want to be accepted as a human being. And so now we're dealing with a situation where the acceptance of something that is counterproductive to empowering the next generation still wants to find a place. And that in itself is a perversion, which in itself leads to obviously not being a critical thinker, leads to obviously creating this loophole to where I can do this and still be a part of this, and I can do this and still promote this. I can do this and still have this lifestyle that I feel like should be acceptable and okay by the masses of the people in terms of being able to be a healthy citizen in society. And that's just all confused. And again, because our people are not being students of history, they're not looking at the mere fact of just even going back one generation and seeing mother, father, created child, period. Mother, father, creating child, being in an African community, building that African community up, and passing that on to the next generation. If you want to be a part of a movement that is about us being able to develop as a people, us coming together and being able to unify as a people, it is based around the next generation, which the next generation has to come about through some form of procreation. There's no separating that from the family structure, from the community structure. And I think when people attempt to do that, they're again living a perversive lifestyle that they want to justify, and they want acceptance in how they recognize certain parts of oppression. And just because I'm getting oppressed on this level, don't mean that you can relate to African oppression. Just because you're Black and you are living an abnormal lifestyle and that abnormality gets attacked, don't mean that you can put them both in the same bucket and turn around and say, see, it's happened to me because I'm like this. And now I want to go rush to the African-centered movement, and I want them to be acceptance of it. That just ain't right. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Let me say this, and we can continue on the conversation. I just want to say that I want to let anybody watching live on YouTube know that I am looking at the chat. I am in the chat room. So if you got anything you want to say, we will respond. And if you want to come on the show and actually give your thoughts and your opinion on it, if you look in the description box on YouTube, the link to the Zoom is in the description box. So you can hit the link to the Zoom and you can come into the waiting room, and we'll let you in and we'll let you participate in the conversation. Anyway, Brother E, David Foreman, it was toward you when you was talking. I just didn't want to cut off War. David Foreman was in the chat room. He said, you are talking about aspects of survival. Living is building. We haven't built anything in centuries. Now, I don't know exactly what David was going with that. If anybody don't know who David Foreman is one of the honored elders, one of the original and founders of the original New Black Panther Party in Dallas, Texas. that restarted this whole Panther thing. He's one of the brothers. He was the chief of staff when I came into the party, and he became the national minister of defense as the party started growing and started spreading. But what do you think about that? Do you want me to read it again so you can know what the brother was saying?
No, I saw it.
Okay, all right.
Wasn't he a captain at one time or something? Yeah, well, side note real quick. So expect the US to be doing to start pumping up human rights abuses in Uganda, because here not too long ago it was announced they found a gold reserve, quote unquote, found a gold reserve that's valued at more than 12 trillion US dollars, and it's being processed by a Chinese company. So yeah, I'm sure they'll be going in there pumping them up. Oh, human rights abuses, blah blah. We got to bring democracy, like they always do, because $12 trillion, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of gold. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely survival. An attempt to, if it's ship is sinking, you still in your next, you still want to grab onto it or some piece of it just so that you can keep breathing, you know. And that's yeah, I understand that. At some point, we people have to make a decision that surviving is not enough. You know, I mean, the reality of it is that this society, if you kept up with any parts of the news, you know that economically, socially, all of this shit is falling apart. It's coming apart, and very, very quickly. If Putin reacts to the was it the G7, or I think it was the G7, attempts to limit the money that he can make off the oil that they sell. If he reacts in particular ways, that could send oil up to like $300 a barrel. Right now, with $5 at the pump as the average nationally, around $5. The price of oil, I think, is like $1.20, somewhere in there. So you can imagine if the price of a barrel of oil is up to $300, you know, that's 2 or 3 times the amount. So you're looking at $10 or $15 at the pump per gallon. So all of this shit is falling apart. And even Dr. King lamented that he may have been a part of convincing his people to run into a burning house, to hold on to a sinking ship, to essentially grab on to the US, even as the US falls apart, rather than building from within. So at some point, we have to embrace the pain of not being able to have it, the distractions that we're used to, because that's all it is. We're used to the distractions, whether it's sports or shopping, whether it's a movie, whether it's TV, whatever it is, they're just distractions placed out there to keep us. The January 6th committee that's going on is a fucking distraction. All of these things are distractions. You know, Biden talking about it's a Putin tax on gas and oil. It's a distraction from the fact that they're doing things intentionally, going down a particular direction. You know, they've known about inflation. We've been talking about inflation for the past year and a half now, but all of a sudden it's a Putin tax? What the hell are you talking about? You know, they were saying it was transitory, or I think that's the word. It was, the inflation basically was passing. It was going to be a hump and things were going to go back to normal after the whole COVID shit and all of that. But lo and behold, ain't nothing went down. So they've known and understood what's going on. They understand very well. Listen to the words that they say, the oopsies that they make when they say the quiet part, they say it out loud. Take note of that. We have to become students of history to get beyond survival. At some point, it doesn't take a whole lot. Watch a fucking documentary, 10 minutes. I'm not even talking a full documentary. Watch a 10-minute documentary about something other than, you know, Jordan's greatest dunks on YouTube. Watch something that's going to give you some type of historic background. So like what Will was saying, so that we can see these things in a historical context. They've done this before. They've done it before that. They did it before that. They keep running the same game plan because we're so much more concerned with fitting in and surviving than we are with knowing the truth. It's more important for us to just feel good than to be good. We want to feel safe than to be safe. And that's, you know, last week or a few weeks ago, I was saying that we bought into the European concept of death. You know, if we don't have, you know, this mortality and this idea that YOLO, this is the life you get. You got to live it up. I'm going to live my best life. I'm going to go travel, even though there are 8,000 flights got canceled this weekend. And I might be stranded someplace. I don't know what's going on. I'm still going to go fly out there to a foreign country somewhere or something. You know, we have to divest ourselves mentally from the bullshit. We can't keep buying into the distractions that they place on the plate before us. Matter of fact, basketball. One of the things I used to like to tell my children, we would watch a basketball game. Somebody who's a fan of the sport, who likes to watch basketball, they're looking at who's got the ball. Is Steph Curry going to shoot a three? Is somebody going to dunk the ball? Da, 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 da. They like to see what's happening with the ball. Those who study the game are looking at what they call the weak side. They're looking where the ball is not, because that's where the play is being set up. The pick is being set, somebody's in the paint, they move out of the paint to pull their defender out of there so they can clear the lane for somebody to bring the ball in for an easy score. That's what is going on. Ukraine is the ball. Look away from the ball, look at the weak side, see what plays are being set up, because they tell you exactly what they make. They put announcements online when the IRS was buying ammunition by the millions, when the Environmental Protection Agency was buying ammunition by the millions, when I forget the name of it, but basically it's the organization that deals with the pensions for federal workers, were buying ammunition by the millions. What the hell does the IRS need with bullets, or the EPA need with bullets, or the Railroad Commission need with bullets? What do they need with bullets? What is really going on? What are y'all doing? And they put these notices up online. You can see them, but like we always know, the best place to hide something from Black folks is in a book. Put it in writing, put it on paper. We're not going to look at it. And as long as we continue to not look at it and invest ourselves in it and find any type of excuse, any old excuse will do, to not do it so that we can feel good, because we don't want to talk about slavery because that makes me angry, because that hurts. Good, it needs to make you hurt. It needs to make you cry. It needs to make you boohoo. It needs to make you hate your boss more than you already do, to the point that you can come out, not do something stupid, but do something intelligent and start moving yourself away from that mind state of being in that situation. And until we make those decisions, we fucked. Male-female relationships are fucked because we keep forcing shit that's not ours. You got to learn who we are, who we've been historically. What were we doing when we built the pyramids? Niggas and bitches don't build pyramids. They spread hepatitis, get baby mamas and daddies. That's what bitches and niggas do. But men and women, we build pyramids in societies, and we define realities for an entire globe. We talk to aliens and people from other dimensions, and that's what the fuck we do when males and females, our males and females, are on point. And until we're ready to invest some little bit, and that sounds big, but it just takes a little bit to start changing your mind and moving into that direction. Otherwise, yeah, y'all fucked, because I got rabbits.
Now you kind of now. I'm not saying the same dialogue, but you're using the same conversational style of a Kevin Samuels, because what you just said is going to offend some people that don't want to hear it that raw. They don't want to hear that. That's why I say I'm a Sigma. I can be an alpha. I know how to do alpha shit, but this is my area. This is my realm. See, Kevin Samuels is not necessarily an alpha. He claimed high value male. He never claimed alpha. You know, the dude claimed high value male. He's a nerd. You know, y'all would probably sit down and have a great conversation. The dude still like, cause he's a nerd. You know, college guy, a lot of reading, into stuff like, if you ever notice the guy, he always talk. Yeah, dude do a lot of reading. Dude always quoting somebody. What's that dude name who I loved his book? The Antidote to the Chaos, the 12 Steps. I can't remember the name of the brother. I can't believe Jordan Peterson. He was always quoting Jordan Peterson and the sister Shahrazad Ali and the other sister Ayanna Van Zandt. He was always quoting them, you know. And if you're a reader, when you're a reader, you know this. I ain't got to explain this to you. But when you're a reader and somebody is talking, you know, you pretty much know, that's such and such. I know who that is. That was, you know, I read that same book. That was somebody go to talk about by any means. That's you know, that's Malcolm. He quoted Malcolm. But anyway, yeah, dude was a nerd. But so what you just said will offend the baby mamas and the baby daddies and the N's and the B's and all that. You will offend those who participate in N and B activity.
And when somebody says they're an alpha male, whether it's him or anybody else, in my head, what I hear is, okay, you're an alpha male. That's it. That's all you do. For me, I do it. I know full well, yeah, I'm gonna piss some people off. I'm not concerned about it, but yeah, I'm gonna do this on purpose. So like I said, I can do alpha shit, but I'm not an alpha male because I'm a gorilla at best. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's fine. Kevin Samuels, R.I.P. You got no problem with him.
Oh man, this guy here is hell. Well, unless we move, unless we come up with some great subject matter, I'd say we might need to close it down by 7:30 because the whole goal was to get some women to come in here and refute some of the stuff we talked about last week, or to add to that discussion. And we've had no women come in and add in it, as you said last week, 2 cents to the conversation. But I want to ask this. We talked about homosexuality. We talked about the state of modern women. We talked about the Kevin Samuels affair. We talked about all this. What does polygamy have to do with that? Are we in some way insinuating that maybe polygamy could be an answer to some of these problems? What are we saying? Because like you said, I know that there are women, and we got some viewers watching live right now, and I'm sure that some of them are probably women. I know that there are women that will probably say, hell no, I'm not feeling that polygamy stuff. Hell no, I'm not sharing no man. I want a man to love me and be all about me and be crazy about me, and that's it. What are we saying about polygamy? And I want to say this, give y'all a little fuel to jump on. I don't necessarily know if polygamy is the answer. I really think that the modern women, I watched this dude named Soul Immortal. I like his channel. I like the brother. And he always, do a little building. And he told a story one time on his channel about him going fishing. I can't remember if it was his father or uncle, whoever it was, but they went fishing. And he said every time they caught a fish, they took pictures with it, and the guy would throw the fish back. And he was like, why we keep throwing the fish back? And he told him, the whole pool, the whole thing is contaminated. You got to throw these back. We can't eat these. These fish are, they basically poisonous. And basically he talked about, and what he was talking about was this society and the women that this society had created. And he was saying the whole pool is contaminated. None of it is no good right now. The whole pool is contaminated. Everything that this society has taught the modern day women has basically poisoned them and made them basically no good to a productive man. And if you take that perspective, there is no real relationship, polygamous or monogamous, that will actually work for a man that's actually trying to evolve. I truly believe, and I ain't gonna put it all on women. I think that it becomes important for a revolutionary minded man. And when I say revolutionary minded, what I'm saying is that a man that want to evolve to his highest level of manhood, to actually take time to go into a monk stage, to go into a stage where he's not dealing with women and just focusing on rebuilding himself, getting himself to a high level of advancement. Because a lot of times we're messed up and we don't know how messed up we are. And then we go into these relationships with women who are messed up and don't know how messed up they are. And no one has taken the time to do some healing. No one is taking our time to purify themselves from the last messed up relationship and situation that they was just in. They was beat down by that relationship. They was hurt by that relationship. They was put on child support and had their children snatched from them and took to a whole nother state. And they were so abused by their relationship that they go into a relationship with a woman thinking they all right, and they still tripping. You know what I'm saying? They still got problems with the last woman they was with. I think sometimes we got to stop and do some healing before we keep leaving all this roadkill in our wake as we go into these relationships after relationships after relationship. I think that it becomes a time for that, for us to go into amongst it. And I'm gonna say this, and then I'll pass the mic. And also, every woman is not going to understand where a progressive minded man is going. When I say progressive, I'm not talking about in the terms that we use in popular media, where that man is trying to go. When a man is not wanting to go out to eat all the time, is not wanting to go blow his money on red bottoms, doesn't think the world of a Hermes bag, does not want to participate in the BS that society has told us that makes us valuable, he does not want to participate in these things. So then the woman gets sad. She gets depressed. She doesn't understand why that man wants to get up early in the morning. She gets mad that he gets up early in the morning to get things done. She gets frustrated that all her friends are posting pictures on Facebook of these unnecessarily expensive meals that they boyfriends or dudes they dating taking them to, and he wants to stay home and have a home cooked meal. They gets upset and it tears away from that man. I can't remember who it was. I was listening to. It was a song that said, he basically said that a man at this level needs a Coretta. You know, he needs a Coretta Scott King. He needs a Betty Shabazz. He needs this. And I haven't seen a Betty Shabazz in an extremely long time. You understand? So I don't think that it's the polygamous relationship that's going to help him. And I don't think it's the monogamous relationship that's going to help him. I think he has to go at some point, he has to become a Shaolin monk and go into the monk relationship. But anyway, what do y'all think on that?
Well, there's always value, you know, the folks that everybody like to shout out in the Bible and religions and whatnot, whether it's Confucius or it's Jesus, all had their time where they separated themselves from humanity. But the dialogue about polygamy was to simply have the dialogue because it is a part of, it needs to be a part of the conversation. Culturally, it's something that was significant in our historical past, but it's also an option that's out there that if we're going to have a conversation, it has to be a part of that conversation. And I can say that at this point in life, I've come across sisters that have bought into the American dream, worked 20, 30 years to climb the corporate ladder, to, you know, got their nice fly ride, got a car, got all this, and this, only to realize at some point, this ain't shit. Fuck this American dream. I need a man in my life. I need to do something. I've met sisters that have quit their corporate job because of the value system that they were being forced to embrace and decided to go a different direction, breaking from that norm. So sisters are out there that essentially have bumped their heads and seen, okay, these white folk done lied to me. This ain't where it's at. I'm not happy at all. And are now stepping back and reassessing their value system and where they are in life in order to, you know, whether it's coming late to the party or right on time or whatever it is, starting to come to that reality. Now, generationally, because I don't interact with, you know, a bunch of 30-year-olds or 20-year-olds, other than Rashida, which we had a real fucked up conversation. But so I don't know where you know, those sisters are at, you know, in terms of that generation. Can only assume they're really fucked up. And I don't know if they'll make it to the point in life where they say, oh, this was some bullshit. I shouldn't have been doing this the whole time. But the reality of it is that there are, just like there are brothers that are in the mindset of, okay, I need to do this. There are sisters that have stepped back and said, wait a minute, let me reevaluate what does submit really mean. Does that mean bow down like master slave, like they want me to think, or is it more along the lines of cooperation? So that like I said, polygamy was just the topic of that particular show, or supposed to have been this show, was just a matter of introducing it into the dialogue. Since we talk about male-female relationships, that's a male-female relationship. It's a construct that worked in the past and may not necessarily the way, because there are no new relationships. There are no new male-female dynamics going on in the world anywhere under the sun. But if we look back and say polygamy and monogamy, whatever it is, look back and see it and take it in a historical context, and then glean off of whatever that situation was and apply that to what we have going on now. That's what we do. That's what we as guerrilla thinkers do. We scrape off what it is we see to be beneficial and take that part with us and keep it moving. So even if someone, it's like you decide to go into polygamous relationship, it may not be that you have 3 sisters living at the house with you. Each of you, you know, the 4 of you may have your own homes and just maintain relationships in that sense. I don't know, but delving into that dynamic and getting a better understanding of what the relationship's supposed to be. Even if it's a monogamous relationship, you can still learn some things from talking about polygamy and what it entails and what it shows. If we can step back, get beyond the emotion of it, and look at it for, you know, some type of logical analysis of those relationships. And it helps to take away some of the stigma, because that's one of the things white folks like to throw up in our face. Oh, he got 6 wives, even though the folks in your Bible that were the holiest of holy men had a bunch of women and concubines, AKA side chick, side piece, all of that shit. Call it what it is. You know, Moses and them had side pieces. That's just call it what it is. And yeah, it was just an attempt to have that dialogue and glean off whatever we can glean off to better develop whatever that dynamic needs to be.
I wonder what modern women think about that. The fact that, you know, Moses had a side chick, you know, he had Sarah and Hagar. That was his other one. And he had 2 children. He had a child by each of, no, I'm thinking about Abraham, my bad. That was Abraham. Abraham had Sarah and Hagar. Moses had side chicks. The irony of the Abraham situation is that the 2 children that came from these 2 different women, 2 major world religions claim descendant from these women, from these different women. Hagar giving birth to was it Isaac, and by giving birth to Isaac is the bloodline of the Islamic religion, and then Sarah giving birth to what was her son's name? I can't remember right now.
You asking the wrong people.
But
I don't know. Shit.
He was the progenitor of the Jews of the Hebrew religion, which ended up becoming the bloodline of the Christian religion. But anyway, back to the point. So I wonder what they think. Solomon had all the wives and the concubines, and we can go through the Bible and constantly see this structure throughout the entire Bible. I wonder what modern women think about that concept and those ideas.
I tell you, the younger generation will say, fuck religion, that's womanizing, I don't go to church, want. Other generations, older generations are going to make excuses for what they're in the church. They're going to make excuses for it. He was Moses was a holy man, so he could do, and that was the Old Testament. You talking about the Old Testament, that was the different, contract, whatever bullshit they roll out for that shit, and then there'll be other sisters that got to that point. They're like, okay, let's talk about it. Fuck, ain't nothing else work. Let's talk about this shit and see where it goes, which is
it's ironic. I hate to keep doing this, because it makes it seem like I'm just a super KS fan. But that's another thing he was talking about, and he was bringing this conversation up. He was saying that, he used the whole high value male and thing, but he was essentially saying, breaking down the statistics between women and men and saying that women are going to have to accept that their man is going to have another woman. It's going to happen whether you know about it, already you accept it and actually become something that's functional. That's one of the conversations he was saying consistently that. And I know you don't watch the dude, so you don't know those talking points that he used to constantly talk on. But it's ironic. Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. Something I wanted to say in that last one. For so many sisters, especially that shoot down the concept, it's all about sex. He gets to, if the man has several wives, he gets to have all the sex he wants and blah, blah, blah. Okay, we can kind of brush that off. But it's like Humpty Hump said in that song. He said, it was a fair exchange, ain't no robbery. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you're not doing him a favor by having sex with him. He's not doing you if y'all are doing it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like he gets this extra shit. It's not extra shit. You getting it too. What are you bitching about? But even beyond that, the personality of it, there are minds that honestly and truly get bored. When somebody is all over the place, jumping from this to that, then the dynamic, just like sex, between a man and a woman who've been together for 20 years, it can get stale and all of that, and they got to do stuff to spice it up and all of that shit. There's still that part of it that it boils down to personality. That I know personality types that are more comfortable in a surrounding of several people, because they get to bounce off different people and have different conversations and not just be stuck on this one conversation with this one person all day long. So that's a part of the interaction too, is it just, you can't boil it all down to that one aspect of it. There have to be other parts of it that have to be had, like that conversation. And again, it was just an attempt to have the conversation and put it out there. And ideally wanted some woman, young lady, old lady, middle age, whatever, to come in and say yes or no. Go ahead, boy. I know you got your
all I want to add to is just say this. When I think of my position would be with a polygamous relationship.
You married, you don't count.
Listen, none of y'all count too then. You ain't been in a polygamous relationship. I would say this. My position, period, on everything has to do with procreation, has to do with having more of your bloodline out there working in a righteous capacity. So when I think about it, I think about primarily the relationship that the children would have with the father, regardless of the fact that you got two different women, and how those women are able to cohabitate with one another and create balance between two women and one man, or however many women and one man. The bottom line to me is, how do you create balance and harmony amongst the relationships between the male and the female energies, and make sure that aligns itself with the children, making sure the children have enough access to that male energy within a household that has a lot of feminine energy. So all I'm concerned about, and all I look at in any relationship, is being able to create a productive procreation environment. And then that procreation environment that is being raised up is able to go out and create the same thing, and also how that is able to fit in with a community, and us building ourselves in a position to be back in a situation of empowerment, based on what Comrade David was saying, to where we're living versus as opposed to just surviving. So my overall thing is, if it's conducive to creating a situation where we're more out to live versus survive as a society, I'm all for it. And that's the bottom line.
And I think that ties back into the—
Hold on, because I need you to come in here on this, because I got some comments that I need you and Water respond to. Let me say this. I made a mistake a while ago. I messed up. I said Hagar gave birth to Isaac. Hagar gave birth to Ishmael. That's why I couldn't remember the name. Sarah gave birth to Isaac. That's what I meant to say, because I know some Muslims gonna go off, because now in Islam they say that a man is allowed to have up to 4 wives, as long as, that's what people don't understand about the Islamic teachings, as long as he can treat them and love them and care for them equally. He can't have one that he loves more than the other. He can't have one that he can't really provide for. So her and her son is on the other side of town starving, while this one and her son is living good. He has to be able to treat them equally. That's the thing that's necessary. Now, conversation with Sassy said this, and she said a person that wants to be in a polygamous relationship should have a conversation with the women and not just make the decision for himself. That's the first thing she said. Now, here's the second thing that I kind of want you to come in on, E, and I want you to give me your thoughts on this. She also said, and he has to get a woman the same. So is it really polygamous relationship, or is it an open relationship? She said that he had to get a woman the same thing. So I guess the woman get to have her 2 penises according to her. And she brought up the open relationship. What is your thought on that, E?
Well, real quick, to circle back and to bring it to what War said, is kind of how the polygamy, I guess, ties into the alpha, having the energy and the presence to provide enough of a masculine presence within the relationship. To me, from my understanding, as I'm learning about this alpha male shit, being able to have enough of a male presence in the family to project that and to counter the higher levels of estrogen that are in the room. But insofar as, I mean, of course, if a man wants to get into a polygamous relationship, yeah, he's gonna have to have a conversation with the women. We're not talking about being a player. You know, that's being a player where you don't talk to a woman about your dealings. You know, when you just hopping around, da 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 da, and she thinks you're in this one-on-one relationship and you're going behind the back. That's not what we're talking about. So it would absolutely be one of many conversations I would think would go on. But insofar as having, you know, multiple a woman being basically, like you said, an open relationship, that's not what we're talking about either, because that's a loosening of the definitions and the guides for a healthy relationship. And I would ask the sister, can she reference any historical presence in which a society where women had multiple husbands? I mean, we can go through a litany of African, traditional African states, nations where polygamy was an acceptable norm. But I've yet to hear anybody say anything about any historical context where polyandry or a woman having multiple husbands was the norm. Again, because of the dynamic, and this comes even before the conversation about polygamy or any other relationship, is before you can know your role in any relationship, monogamous or polygamous or whatever, you have to understand what your role is. You have to understand who it is you are. You have to understand better what are the expectations, again, because we as a society, African people, define each other through each other. And so seeing what our historic history, what our roles and what our definitions are is step one. You know, figuring out if you got somebody who's just a player and say, okay, you can have you can be in this polygamous relationship. He's just a player, ain't changed nothing, ain't went through the process, ain't got no higher respect or level of understanding. So he's just doing player shit and calling it something else. I knew a cat that was a war, you gonna know, this supposedly an Ifa priest. He had multiple wives that he had living in Dallas at that particular point in time. As I got to know him and what was going on, come to find out, before he became a Ifa priest, he was just a player. He would, you know, have multiple women, go stay at somebody's house, then go stay at somebody else's house, basically using these women. So in my mind, all he did was flip it and find a justification for it and went into this bigger play and lived the same lifestyle. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about having a historical context in which or from which you can draw a particular relationship norms and values based on the gender roles and the expectations. Certainly, if one of the things that we're facing is the elimination of our people, it makes sense to have a healthy situation where you can procreate physically, then procreate emotionally, and procreate spiritually. If you have a situation where you have, if you have multiple husbands, a sister has multiple husbands, again, show me historically where that has done that. I can show you historically where polygamous relationships have benefited the community and the society, but can you show me historically where a woman having multiple husbands has benefited the community and the society? That's what we're talking about. We ain't talking about cats going out and getting some nookie from every chick he can and say, hey, I'm a polygamist. That ain't what we're talking about. It's play shit. Been there, done that. It's old. It's too easy. It's not fun anymore. So we're talking about a mature, open, not open in that sense, but open dialogue, communication situation where there's respect, there are boundaries, and there are expectations that go toward the development. See, and that's a big difference. Players play just to be playing. Ain't no point except the game. The game is the point. What we're talking about is intentionally having a purpose, having a point. You know, if there are only 10 men in a society and there are 100 women, and you have just monogamous relationships, it's going to be 90 women that don't get to have children. And that's a big thing for sisters. There's a big thing for a community. That's 90 women that don't get to have children. So if it benefits a situation where each of these males are able to take on respectfully and maintain healthy relationships with these women and the children, then what would be the logical historical context for saying that's no good? That would be my question. What is the logical argument to saying that's no good?
Let me speak real quick on this whole thing of open relationship, because I want to make sure that people understand in essence what that means. When a couple traditionally would decide to have an open relationship, now what we talk about, a couple that is married or a couple that is that are just boyfriend and girlfriends living together. Basically, what you are agreeing to when you have an open relationship is stating that I in essence am not expecting or looking for my spouse to fulfill whatever needs that I would traditionally expect to come from that feminine or masculine energy. Is that it's okay for me to go outside of the actual bond that is being created and have that energy exchange, and then come back home and have a different energy exchange with the person that I'm living with. The problem with open relationships, and this is real important that people get this, is that because you are allowed to go outside of your bonding relationship and form other relationships and deal with those type of interactions openly with other people, what is it that's going to maintain a healthy balance, and what is it that's going to maintain the ability for you and your bonding mate to be able to really get to a point to where y'all are able to build with each other? Because the problem with the open relationship thing is that instead of us working or learning each other and learning how to accommodate one another and how to build professionally with one another, and again bring up a child in an environment to where we are both able to supply the proper needs to those children, what we're going to do is we're going to go outside of our connection, and we're going to basically have an energy exchange away from our household, away from that family unit, and then come back home when we're fulfilled on an individual level, and then have a certain type of relationship with our spouse. And when you do that, you actually damage the relationship between you and your spouse, because you don't fulfill one another, nor are y'all communicating to a point to where y'all can build holistically across the board, because you are quick to just run outside and do it. That's no different than how when we talk about emotionalism, basically charging an individual to the point to where they want instant gratification instead of learning how to better deal with logical responses and intellectual responses. They run out and they go out elsewhere and fulfill that need and then come back. So if me as an individual, I can't properly grow and develop myself if I find these lead paths of resistance in terms of being able to structure and live properly within balance in a harmonious society or environment. So I would say when most people deal with open relationships, it has to do with just getting a fulfillment elsewhere instead of doing the proper work to keep that bond going. Go ahead, E.
I would also say that when one of the things that comes to mind for as a reason not to involve the whole polyandry, a woman having multiple men, is this idea that when a man and a woman are interacting on the level, he's essentially projecting into her. She's receptive, he's projecting. So if she's with one man and he's projecting into her physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, projecting into her, and then she comes back home to another man and he turns around and attempts to project into her mentally, physically, emotionally, there's going to be a conflict. That's just the nature of it. The position of the male is going to be competitive. What I've projected and what this other dude projected are going to be at odds, no matter, there's no way to get around it. For a woman, it's cooperative. That's more her nature, is to cooperate and be a part of that flow. So it makes more sense from that perspective for a male to polyandry versus polygamy, a man having more than one wife, because if he's able to project in a constructive manner into multiple women, physically, mentally, emotionally, all of those things, rather than him competing with another dude across town that's projecting his shit into this same woman, and the mental shit she's got to go through to try to balance those two and somehow try to rectify the two competitive forces that are going on. And so that's just the most primal, basic part of it. A man is competitive, no matter what. A man is trying to bump heads. One of the first things a man does when he sees another man is to assess, how can I take him out? You know, what kind of physical threat is this man to me? I'm breaking you down. It's just a primal based need that we do, because that's a part of our role in a family, is the defense and protection and all of those things. So we automatically, even subconsciously, break down other males when we interact, when we encounter them. So if a woman's bringing another man's stuff home, eventually at some point he's going to know, and he's going to be at odds. He's going to be in competition with what she's saying, what she's bringing to the house. And now you've got conflict between those two, where there doesn't need to be. It's basically a proxy war. You know, the dude across town is going to battle against you in your house through her. So now she's essentially, not intentionally, but she's essentially being used to fight a battle between two competitors in this world. And, you know, again, that's just the yin and the yang of it.
All right. All right. I think we should get ready to bring this thing to a close. I did have one more thing. And because I appreciate those who participated in the chat, who left good questions, good concepts that sparked the dialogue a little further. But here's one thing I want to ask, and I want y'all's opinion on this. So we talked about polygamy. The sister said, "You're right, brother War. That damages the relationships when you step outside of the relationship." And that's kind of what I was just about to say. Why do you think sisters or women are so hurt when a man has another woman? We're talking about polygamy, but a lot of women in this society, in this modern day society, will look at that as an insult to them. Will look at that as something that hurts their womanhood.
Let me start off with what I view that as. A lot of times what a woman finds and looks forward to in a relationship with a man would be security, what they consider to be security and stability. When a man is going outside of that relationship, that damages that woman's point of view or ability to be able to feel as though and contribute as though they are stabilizing the relationship, that they can nurture that man. A woman has to be able to nurture. And if a man is going elsewhere for that type of comfort, then he is stripped away her ability to be able to be that provider and that nurturer provider to that relationship, as well as the stability that she likes to have and that foundation that she likes to have, feeling as though and contributing as though the man is wanting this specific energy or this specific relationship with her. And so when he goes elsewhere, then that basically tells her that I'm not able to fulfill that feminine energy need within this relationship. So from that standpoint, I'm competing with someone, or I'm competing with multiple women from that standpoint. And there's nothing I can do about that, because I can't fulfill the roles or the shoes of multiple. So what that goes right back to me is the point Psych made earlier about, and this to me implies whether we talk about male or female. A person has to have the ability to define themselves first and foremost. If you are not able to truly know what it means to love yourself, to know thyself, then when you get into a relationship with another person, then you are seeking that within that an external body. And when you're seeking love to that degree of yourself in an external body, you're going to always be unfulfilled. And if you haven't fulfilled your own self, that definition in who you are, then yes, you will be looking for multiple partners over and over all the time, attempting to do what people that are not ready to be in that type of relationship do. And that is find that fulfillment any and everywhere you can, because you want to be fulfilled. So from that standpoint, it goes back to people needing to be at a certain position within their own comfort zone, with their own self-awareness as they create this bond. Because if they don't, then they're going to look to their partner to be able to fulfill that. And their partner can't fulfill something that they couldn't fulfill for themselves. And so that is going to create a dysfunctional relationship. And from that standpoint, the best you can do until you learn how to identify who you are and what you bring properly to that relationship, then you're going to find a situation where it's going to be in constant combat with every other person of the opposite sex within your relationship and your household. And more than likely it's going to end in divorce. And a lot of this stuff goes on subconsciously because, again, when we talk about the upbringing of a family structure, of what a nuclear family structure should be, it should include community. And that element of community should come experience in terms of raising these this particular young generation that is about to cohabitate to a point to where the man knows how to be a proper man, the woman knows how to be a proper woman. Then the two come together and combine, and they are able to procreate and create a child. But in this modern day society, what we define as male-female relationships goes into a man just being able to put food on the table, a woman basically being able to get the kids ready for school and get them out the door. We have diluted and torn down and neutralized the element of what a real family structure means. And in its instant microwave social media society, those things have left the environment, left the family structure. So we find ourselves doomed until we really can go back to learn who we are and what we are and when we are as Black men and as Black women. We have to repair that, and then that helps to repair the family, and then that helps to repair the society or the community. You can't go about it the other way, because if you do, again, you're going to always externally look for something that you will never find in your spouse because you ain't defined it in yourself. So if you don't know how to love yourself truly, you can't truly love anybody else.
True indeed. True indeed. True indeed. We feel get ready to close this thing. Our brother David said, and I think kind of adds to what you just said, War. He said earlier, he said, your goals determine your actions, not your actions determine your goals. And as real talk, you know, I think that is a lot of the problems that we find in these, because a lot of women believe that a man is supposed to make her happy, that his duty, his job is to come into her life and do this magic trick of giving her some kind of happiness. And a lot of men have bought into the idea that a woman is supposed to give him peace. She's supposed to come into his life and give him this extraordinary state of hotel. You know, that's a blissful state that you expecting this woman to really put you in. I mean, and these are unrealistic expectations that people are going into relationships with, and cause them to be unhappy and unpeaceful in the situation that they find themselves in. So what Ward just said is 100% on point. Anybody want to add anything to it before I say what I'm supposed to say to close it?
Oh, Lord.
I'm not going to say anything extraordinary, but okay. We appreciate everybody that viewed. We appreciate everybody that viewed it live, and we appreciate everybody that's going to view it later, because it's going to stay, you know, it's going to stay on YouTube. If you have any ideas of any kind of live subject matter you want us to build on live, leave it in the comment section, and we'll build on it as long as we think it's productive toward the development of the community. Leave it in the comment section. Anytime we do a live, you are welcome to come on the show and state your viewpoint. We will try our best to keep Brother E in check so he don't just tear you apart if he disagrees with you. Don't be afraid to come on the show. We're open to open dialogue. Once again, it was the Panther 48, and you brothers got anything to say before we close out?
Let me make one correction. When y'all stated earlier, somebody that going into the position to where we're defining and breaking something down, like how you talking about with Brother E, as blanking out. I don't like the idea of blanking out, because what we're doing is providing them the stern statement or the stern point of view or reference that they need. To me, when you say blanking out, that's like you're not thinking, or you're not there, or where you're going. So I don't agree with that blanking out. I don't think Brother E blanking out. I don't think Malcolm blanked out. I think they blinked in, not out. And the problem, most people are out instead of in.
Oh, whatever. You always got to be somebody daddy. Ain't you got some kids you need to go correct or some shit? Ah, damn. Blanking out as in.
So you stop saying as in if you're gonna say out.
What?
Which one is?
Huh?
Is it out or in?
Blanking out.
Men go in. We penetrate.
Blanking out as in disconnecting from all of this out here and residing totally here and letting it come through like a freestyle. Like a rapper that's going freestyle, he's blanking out because he's not thinking about what he's saying. He's just caught that groove or that vibe, whatever you want to call it, and he's running it down.
He went in.
You can say he went in. You can say he blanked out. In and out of the same fucking thing. Why are we having this metaphysical problem right now?
Blanking out is a psychotic behavior. Look it up.
Blanking out is a disconnect from your external reality. Now, what?
There's the person that has never taken a mushroom before.
You told me I was forbidden from doing that. So that's like 20 years ago. I said, okay, I'm not going to do
it. For y'all start telling too much, y'all do know that y'all still live on YouTube.
I don't give a damn. I didn't take a mushroom. Now come and arrest me. I mean, what the fuck? I was told I was not allowed to do that shit. So I took that to heart. And I never, I wondered about it, but yeah, I've never did it.
We're talking about a ritual, family. We're not talking about recreation. Okay, we're against recreational drugs.
I did smoke a lot of weed back in the
day. All right, I'm done.
All right, peace and power. This is your Panther 48.